Joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show, he's Kyle Rudolph. How you been, Kyle?
I'm doing well, Rich. How are you?
I am doing well. So paint me the picture. What's going on there in Vikings camp right now?
We just wrapped up OTA number 3, so it's always good to be back out on the field. The way the CBA is structured, obviously we have to kind of grind through about 5 weeks before we can actually get back out on the field and practice against the defense. So some new faces out here in Minnesota this year. Obviously the quarterback, offensive coordinator being the two biggest ones. So for us as an offense, it's been a fun challenge, learning the new offense, getting comfortable with one another, and then going against the best defense in football.
Well, how different is the offense, Kyle?
Oh, there's obviously a lot of carryover with any new system, but, anytime you learn a new offense, a lot of the time it's just terminology. I like to explain to people, you're almost just learning a new language. There's a lot of carryover in terms of concepts and play calls. It's just a matter of dialing in on the terminology and now us communicating that with one another.
So what's your communication level so far with Kirk Cousins, best you can tell, Kyle?
It's been good. Obviously, when you add a guy like that, it gives your offense a boost, and we're excited to have him here, and I look forward to working with Kirk in 2018.
So when did you first have contact with him?
The first time I got together with him was when he came out here for his free agency visit. I was at dinner when Kirk and his wife Julie came in town, and me and my wife Jordan were able to sit in and enjoy dinner with he and his wife.
Now, was that the one where he couldn't eat certain things? Is that the rumor that they had to be like a special diet dinner? Kyle, were you at that one? Is that a true one?
I was not. No, we were at Capitol Grill, and we pretty much ate everything that they brought out.
Okay, just want to make sure because I thought there was one of those things. All right, so I think we were at that Capitol Grill at the Super Bowl last year. I think we stayed.
Oh yeah, right downtown, absolutely.
Oh I know where that one is. So. The concept that you've got to be better than just a 7-0 lead in the NFC Championship game this year, otherwise the change at quarterback and all of the momentum of this team is for naught. What do you say to something like that, Kyle?
Well, for us, obviously, we came up a little bit short last year, but I think one of the biggest things that we've had to focus on this offseason and one of the biggest points that Coach Zimmer has tried to drive home each and every day is we don't get to pick up where we left off in the NFC Championship game. We have to earn each and every win this season, and right now we have no wins. So it's about laying a foundation for 2018 and making sure that, when we break for summer, that we've laid a foundation to hit the ground running in training camp.
What is playing for Zimmer like, Kyle?
It's awesome. I've had the good fortune to play for a lot of really good head coaches in my career, and, Coach Zimmer is one that, people will say all the time, I would run through a wall for this person. And, you kind of take it with a grain of salt. But when I say that about Coach Zimmer, it's true because you would do it as if there was something on the other side that you had to have. You wouldn't just run through the wall because he said so. You truly believe that he has your best interest in mind.
Yeah, I work with Michael Irvin, Deion Sanders. They know him from his Dallas days. And they would say all the time, when he was looking for a job or when he was not looking for one, when he was interviewing for a head coaching job and got passed over and over again, that people were missing out and that they said the same exact thing, Kyle, that they would run through a wall for the guy. And I'm wondering if there's a specific example that you could give to the fan base here, to the listeners and viewers of the show, as to when that moment you realized that with Coach Zimmer.
Well, I think just one of the biggest things, obviously I'm from Cincinnati, so I had a little bit of background information from Coach Zimmer when he came up here from the Bengals, and just everyone in the city of Cincinnati was so disappointed that they were losing Coach Zimmer. And then when he got here and I had an opportunity to play for him for a few years, he just, like I said, it seems like he always has your best interest in mind. Now, he's going to be the first one to call you out when you do something wrong, but at the same time, when you buy into his philosophy and you do things the way that he wants it done, he's going to be the first one to pat you on the back as well.
Kyle Rudolph, Vikings tight end here on the Rich Eisen Show. So you're from Ohio. How did you wind up at Notre Dame, Kyle? How did they let you out of the state?
Well, when I was coming out of high school, the Buckeyes really didn't use tight ends a whole lot. They were kind of just like a third tackle, and I wanted to run around and catch a bunch of balls.
So did they not recruit you?
They did. I actually I went to one of my visits was the Ohio State-Michigan game when it was 1-2 back the Troy Smith year. So I visited. They offered, like I said, I wanted to go somewhere where I'd be used a little bit more like a receiver and less like a tackle.
So that Troy Smith game where Michigan had all the momentum, but there was an awful 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty called on Michigan that changed the entire momentum of the game. That's the game that you were at, Kyle. That was that.
Yeah,
game.
I'm sure that's not putting any salt in wounds from a Michigan alum or anything.
No.
Bringing up any bad memories.
No, that's okay. No, it's just I'm used to the Big Ten refereeing is essentially what I'm saying, you know?
There you go. Absolutely.
Are you ready for the renewing of said acquaintances this coming fall?
Speaking of Michigan, I'm very excited. That was, for me, having the opportunity to play against Michigan every year was one of the games that I always looked forward to, just the history and tradition that both schools have and, kind of the, mutual respect, if you would. A lot of times in rivalry games, it's, this school hates this school, i.e. Ohio State, Michigan. And I don't think that's the case in Notre Dame, Michigan. It's more of a mutual respect for one another. And I'm glad to see that series back and going again. You know what, Kyle?
I would travel the high road with you right now, but I just can't. I was going to point out, despite all that mutual affection for one another, Notre Dame was the one that did walk away from the series, but that's number one. I'm also the type of guy that rents Rudy hoping he pops a quad towards the end, Kyle. I got to be honest with you.
Well, you know that money talks, and when they got that big ACC contract, they had to do what they had to do with the conference.
Look at you spitting truth. I like it. So while we're on the subject, is Rudy real? Is Rudy real, Kyle? Let's get that out there.
For a guy who spent 3 years at Notre Dame, and obviously I grew up watching Rudy. Mm-hmm. I have a ton of respect for Rudy and what he did. That's awesome. But there are so many cases. I feel like I went to school with like 3 Rudys. Guys that I can remember playing with. First name that comes to mind is Mike Anello. The guy is a undersized walk-on from Chicago, just outside of Chicago. Dreamed of playing at Notre Dame. Walks on, kills it on special teams. And he was actually a guy that played and contributed for us. Another one that Joe Schmidt, the linebacker that was there forever, original walk-on, gets a scholarship. So the Rudy story is great, obviously, as a Notre Dame guy. I love that story. I just feel like that there are many more Rudy stories since then, and, those guys have busted their tail to put themselves in situations that, Hollywood is one thing, but they've kind of exceeded Hollywood.
Well, you are traveling the high road so much. I might need an oxygen mask right now, Kyle. I mean, this is. But you're also showing why you're the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee and the Community Man of the Year there in Minnesota. So before I let you go, I do have to ask you, based on all the news that is happening with the NFL and with the new policy that has been put into place for the national anthem, how that has been sitting. How has that been sitting in your locker room over the last 24 hours?
Well, I think, for us, it's nothing really changes because last year we had guys on our team who had an issue with the way things were going in society. And I think as a locker room, we support each and every one of our teammates and what they may be going through off the field. But we felt like as a team, it was best to do one thing. And, for us, it was standing united, linking arms with every player, every coach, our front office, our owners. We were standing because of the respect that we have for the flag and what the national anthem means. Yet we were still supporting each and every one of our teammates and what they may be going through.
Well, Art Rooney of the Steelers was asked yesterday coming out of the meeting, and this is still a policy that has some potentially devilish details, for the lack of a better phrase, to be figured out, details to be figured out, that linking arms might be construed as disrespectful to the anthem and the flag. So is that something that the Vikings are still planning on doing? Is linking arms?
I don't think it was necessarily something that, obviously we planned on it for a few weeks. It wasn't something that we continued to do each and every week. But, like I said, I think it's something that we'll handle internally as a team. But the main kind of point there is that, no matter what we're doing, we're going to do it as a team and as an organization. That's just the kind of way things are run around here.
All right. And in that regard, just last one for you on this. There have been reports that some players are outraged at this new policy, and that are thinking of demonstrating in some form of demonstration just because of the policy. Is that a conversation happening in your locker room, best you can tell?
No, it has not. Like I said, the Anthem issue really hasn't been much of a discussion here since it was brought up last year during the time when it was kind of most prevalent. And like I said, we decided that no matter what we're going to do, we're going to do it as a team. And then really it's kind of gone by the wayside for us.
And then just because, I do this all the time whenever I have an NFL player or any athlete on this show, and certainly because I want to put, money where my mouth is, the fact that this policy is in many ways overshadowing so many good works that players are doing on these subjects already or attempting to change by going out in the community themselves, and many times it overshadows even those who have just a day-to-day charitable aspect. I want you to, whatever's going on in your charity life, do you want to drop a website here or a way people can get involved? What are you up to, Kyle?
So we do most of our work with University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital, and for those of the listeners that don't know my background, my younger brother was born with neuroblastoma and spent about the first year of his life in Cincinnati Children's Hospital. So children's hospitals are something that, my family, now my wife and I and our family have always been very passionate about. And we've just tried to do as much work as we can at the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital to make the lives and the visits of the patients and their families just a little bit better. So we've started an end zone there, and Kyle Rudolph's end zone is a space that's just under 3,000 square feet where these patients and their families can, escape the day-to-day routine of being stuck in their hospital room and go down and just be kids. These kids are not able to be at school and be out on recess with all their friends. So we just wanted to kind of create a space to where they could go down there and forget the real reason why they're in the hospital and just really be kids.
So is there a website somebody could go to for the hospital or for your foundation or something that they can contribute? Should they?
So we don't have a foundation, but if you contacted the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital and asked about Kyle Rudolph's end zone, they'd be able to point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Kyle, you're the man. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Rich. Absolutely.
And we'll chat. How about we chat towards the middle of training camp, just a couple weeks before the renewing of acquaintances
I would love
in
that.
South Bend. How about that?
That would sound great.
All right. I'm going to call you. We'll chat.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
You got it. Me too. That's Kyle Rudolph.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.